Shubor nakaslem jong unong san Hima.
Ka sorkar jela lingba katnat pla Tyngka hakasi balang kabala pelong ya kaje selok padba halor ka Mang Tyngka jong usnem arhaja apusan arhajar apun riu kaban sawanra hapo ka yeng dor bar thawan ya kane kaje selok padba lapenya da umintri rangba ka jela u Conrad ke sangma kane kaje selok kabala ne hado laikenta kalong banyo ya ki Rukom Pyrkhat Thymmai kalong kalat ya umintri rangba ban penpau bat batai ya Baroh ki badan benta lang ki balapoi ha ka jingelang bat ki bashim benta lingba ka internet ki balaya shim benta ki Kynthup ya ki bawan na ka pule puthi karap karyang nong hikai ki bastat ka yo ka kot ki kinhun 3 months ngobha bat kumju na ki nong tho khubor ha ka jing kren stang jong umintri rangba ula penpau ba ka jing thumu jong kani ka jing selok kalong ban pan jing mut na Baroh ki tu ki badan bentalang ban pentikna ba ka Mang Tyngka kan Kynthup ya ka jing angnut jong ki pat ba nong song snong ka Meghalaya haba penpau ya ka thong na ka benta ka yo ka kot ha ka jela u Conrad ula jubab ru ya ki jing ai jing mut bat ki jing wat jing tip jong ki nong ye shim benta na ki liang ba pher umintri rangba ula ai jing mut ru ba ki nong song snong kin pha ya ki jing pan jing shai lingba ki lat jing erap lani ka CM connect helpline ulo ong baka sorkar ka scam jing mut ban pintikna bat om Kynthup lang ya Baroh ha ka jing kiu ka yo ka kot hapo ka jela bat bantau kamru na kabenta ki nong song snong umintri rangba ulo ong ru bakarinsan OTT hello Meghalaya badai try da ka sorkar jela kalapli ya kalat na kabenta ki riu donsap kum ki content creators bat ki nong snap film bakin yo ya ka bainong na kabenta ka kam baki tray u Conrad ula pen pawru ba ka jingla jong ka jela Meghalaya ban beteng ya ka jing baby sa na kabenta bante ya ka jing don kam haki kam ye lekai haki snem baladep kala shajiet ban pelong ya ka national games house nem arhajar arpunyo la ban kdo hangne ba umintri rangba u Conrad ke sangma unwanra ya ka Mang Tyngka jong ka jela ha ka santrik ulber arhajar apusan ha ka dor bar Mang Tyngka ka ban sedang nadu ka arhu pratrik urumphang
who are here today for this pre-budget consultation. As you're aware that the budget session is going to start next month, or this month towards the end, and we are also in the process of finalizing our numbers for different allocations to be made, different schemes to be implemented, and what more we could do. And in that whole process, we felt it most appropriate, which we will ensure that this is held every year, is a consultation with the public at large. This budget is for the people, and the people of the state, the youth, the different stakeholders, the farmers, entrepreneurs, and so on and so forth. And therefore, I strongly felt that it was most appropriate to at least give some space for our citizens to express their concerns and give their suggestions while we make the budget which is meant for the people. Having said that, I'm not saying that we can take everybody's suggestion on board. I'm neither saying that we will take everybody's suggestion and include it in the budget, but there could be some really wonderful suggestions that could come from the people that could be game changer. And therefore, without giving that opportunity to all of you, it would be really unfair for us to move forward in the way we do. And that is really what the purpose of today's program is. And we are here to listen to more to all of you. Again, I do apologize that we may not be able to take everybody's questions, but of course you can give it to us in writing and hand it over to us. And even on Facebook, whoever is giving suggestions, we will be noting down all the suggestions that come on Facebook also. So you can always just comment. I will reply to some of them while we go ahead with this consultation. And so that's really what the purpose is. You have seen the trend for the last 4 to 5 years, and really the way things are moving forward, thanks to all the support from Government of India, and of course, very importantly, thanks to the work of the team. You see, the funds are available in Delhi, but it requires us to be having the capacity to absorb the funds and utilize the funds and present it again to Government of India to be then able to get more funds. And in the last many years, the government machinery has been able to do that. The capacity to absorb, to implement has gone up in Meghalaya. The same team, the same people, but we just done things in a much better manner. Of course, there's lots more to be done. I'm not saying that everything is perfect, but we are definitely on the right path. And we need to continue this momentum and growth. As you can see, the 16.2% is the growth rate in the last, which is higher than the national average. And we expect this to further move forward. But as I said, while this growth story continues, I think the story is incomplete without the involvement of the citizens of our state. And that is why we have called this meeting. So I will not speak much. As I said, we are here more to listen to all of you and to take down your suggestions and to also maybe answer to some of the queries and concerns that you may have. So with this remarks from my side, we open the the consultation, pre-budget consultation to all of you, and look forward to the suggestions from your side. Thank you very much.
Why is there no revenue generation from there? That's point number one. Point number two is we can understand that the budget is may have allocated adequate funds to different sectors, but at the end of the day, it's how things are implemented on the ground that is important. And I wonder if the government has conducted an economic survey of the state in 2023-24 to detect poor implementation and to improve the forecasting for the coming year now. So at the end of the day, I think it's also important to strengthen our monitoring system, because when we visit the rural areas, we really see the gaps there. And also just wanted to ask why there's a huge allocation to urban affairs, 54% of the budget, and 60% to sports and youth affairs. What about
just go to the chart.
what about tourism? I didn't see.
No. It's not allocation. It's the growth rate.
Growth. Okay.
Please, you're always mixing that up. I'm sorry, I have to correct you because you say something, then the whole world is listening. In the sense that everybody's on Facebook, they'll think that what you're saying is correct. The growth rate is what we're showing. So urban affairs has been an increase from 45% to 455. So 45 crores to 455 crores. So it has increased by 52%, not 52% allocation of the budget. The growth rate in it, which is necessary. Whether you talk now, you're looking at all the aspects of the New Shillong. All this investment is going to New Shillong. Have you seen the roads that have been made to New Shillong? There are 3 to 4 roads that are being constructed that are going to take in. I think out there we are constructing new areas out there. So all this expenditure is being made through the urban affairs to build up the New Shillong city and the roads out there, the infrastructure out there, and much more is going to be done in this sector, because that is the ultimate way for us to lead to decongestion of Shillong city, is to expand the city further, take the administration into a new city, open up the knowledge city, where we can make that also into another growth center, because that's how the world is expanding. And if we don't do this, then we will be again not be able to achieve the kind of goals that we have. So that's why Urban Affairs is pushing for this. The first question was regarding royalty. So I just I don't have the slide there up there, but the royalty on other forest produce is almost at 147 crores. So at 147 crores. I could not. Oh, I'm sorry. 128 crores. It's other with 19. It's with other product it comes to 147. But yeah, so forest and the other forest produce has a revenue of 128 crores. So it's absolutely there. But obviously we have to find mechanisms of strengthening the overall thing, we feel that there is definitely scope for more improved collection there. And that is something that, of course, we had a discussion just before this meeting. We had a discussion on the revenue collection, and a special task force has been created to examine the aspects of the increase. But just to share with you, there has been a consistent growth in this, and we hope that it will improve even more in the future. Second one was the economic survey.
So basically what is being asked is whether, how the quality of the implementation of these schemes. So from time to time, we don't have a comprehensive survey. From time to time, I think we have the program implementation department, and within the planning department also. So we are doing the evaluation of the schemes, and based on these evaluation, some changes in the overall program guidelines, program implementation are done. So departments do an internal thing, planning department and the program evaluation department do this. It's a continuous process. It's we take the suggestion. We'll have to probably do more of those. But yes, the issue that how does this higher resources translate to actual implementation is something that it's a continuous process of work, and we are on it, and we will improve it further.
Yeah, just to add that there are two sides to this whole story that we are trying to share with all of you. And what is most important, as I said, to note is the large amount of funds, the mobilization, the absorption capacity, the fact that centrally sponsored schemes amount has gone up. This is the positive story of the growth projections that we have for the state as a whole. Now, in that, are we saying that there are no challenges? Absolutely not. There are many challenges, and we keep improving on how we're going to go forward. Now, you mentioned about implementation. You see, this implementation aspect, there are so many sides to this entire story. It's not like just a one-line answer to the entire process. But like, for example, as I said, if our implementation was not proper, if we were not able to actually implement things and move forward, Government of India would not then give us more funds. The fact that we are implementing it in a good manner, that funds are coming into us. Is it perfect? Well, maybe not. There is a room. Sorry, whose microphone? Room for making things better, and I'm very, very open to suggestions from your side that what we could do. I've started a program, I think all of you know, which is called CM Connect. And in this CM Connect program, I go to the blocks, 2, 3, 4,000 people gather. Every officer, every director of every department is present there. And the public can ask any question, and the officers and chief minister and other ministers are there to reply directly there and then. So, like, these kind of mechanisms are also being developed to strengthen the overall implementation, accountability, and the satisfaction level of the people. Now, let me go a step further to also share with you that what happens is which is again the thought process which our government is really focusing on, is that there is one part of organizing the money, spending it. Second part is creating the infrastructure for that particular program to be implemented. Third is having the impact, the social impact of actually the purpose for which that infrastructure is being created. Now, I'll just give you an example for that. Now, hospitals, or say a sub-center, or a PHC. Now, one would look at a building of the PHC and say, government has spent the money, and therefore, great, it's a success. Number one, there are many things we're doing, but number one, we already have got programs and funds where we are supporting local filmmakers. Just recently, we have given financial support to 3 local filmmakers, almost up to 35 lakh rupees per director or movie maker, to have local movies in local language being made. So we would like to expand that, and we will do it for more filmmakers, so that more movies in Khasi, Panar, Garo should come out, is what we feel, and we are supporting them. So it's already started, just to share with everybody. Number 2, we have a platform called Hello Meghalaya, which is one of the most unique platforms across the country, and the only one that is run by a government, state government, where the state government pays our youngsters money for creating content, and you can put that content on this platform. And we have, I think, more than 3 lakh people who have registered, and this more than that, 3-4 lakh people who are watching content under Hello Meghalaya. In fact, this is streamed live in Hello Meghalaya right now, and I think many people have joined us online. Third is that under the CM Elevate program, we have a provision for 25 or 35 movie theatres, where government of Meghalaya will give 35% subsidy for anybody who wants to put up a movie theatre in different districts. What is the idea? The idea is normally, obviously, to number one, have entertainment for our people, because people like to go and see movies. Number two, the idea is that our filmmakers don't have the platform or the channel to showcase their movie. So we're hopeful that by having the movie theatres, 25, 35 of them, where the entrepreneur who starts the movie theatre will also earn, but at the same time, the movie makers will have a channel to be able to showcase their movies. And obviously the tax will be much lower for these kind of movies, and we want to promote that. So there's a full process that's on. There are multiple levels we are intervening because it requires the entire ecosystem to be present. It's not about just giving money to them to make the movie, but it's about creating the ecosystem so that the movie can actually reach to the public. So that's the movie scene, and I really hope that we'll be able to move this forward. Regarding coal, as you know, coal has been mined in the traditional manner for the last 200 years or 2 centuries in Meghalaya. In 2014, there was a ban, and completely they stopped the mining of coal. Now, I have been an advocate of this for a very, very long time. When I tell people that you cannot simply snatch or take away the livelihood of the people in one shot. If there is something wrong technically, then you have to allow the transition to take place, where people are told that in 2 years, the plastic is going to be banned. In 3 years, this is going to be banned. In 10 years' time, there's going to be no plastic. Please make a plan for it so that you're able to move forward. I personally feel that the NGT, by doing that, had created a very, very difficult situation for our people. So I am not that point in time was not in support of the way that it was done. Was it required? It was required. But there was a way to do it. And the way it was done led to huge financial hardship for our people, led to huge financial hardship for the state government, and everybody suffered in the process. It should have been a justified transition, where they should have given a time frame in which the mining should have become scientific. Nonetheless, that is over now. And now we are in the process of trying to streamline things. Now, the question of leakage of revenue you mentioned. Until unless we don't have a scientific way of allowing the mining to take place, which has now been approved by the Supreme Court and now by the Coal Ministry and central agencies, we cannot take royalty or any kind of tax from the miners, because until unless it is officially a scientific mine approved by the government. Now, in the whole process, the only source for us is the 32 lakh metric ton, which was shown by the Supreme Court or by our people and then approved by Supreme Court that this coal exists and this has to be now sold out. That is the only source of revenue that we're getting, and the coal is being exported as per the demand that's taking place. Now, in that whole process, the narrative that is being created by general people and who have some concerns about this, and of course it's a genuine concern, I don't deny that, it's a genuine concern, that they only go into the fact that, they see one truck and they say it's a coal truck. If they see one coal truck, they say, it's an illegal truck. There is a legal process of the Coal India auctioned trucks which are moving with proper documentation. Now, while we do that, are there illegal activities once in a while? There could be. There's no denying that. I'm saying that, it's not. Am I saying it is? That also I'm not saying. But I'm saying that there is an entire ecosystem of this mining that was, as I said, going on for 200 years, and suddenly you snatch away the people's livelihood. It's not easy for people to adapt. So there could be people who, it's like simply saying to the people that, look, either you create the system for us to do our work, or we will be forced to do it the way we used to do it. So we have to be here, number one, moving in the process of scientifically improving this. Number two, wherever we are getting information that any kind of illegal activity is going on any kind of a place where there is a a rat hole mining or something going on, we are taking immediate action. So therefore, there is a it's not that we are we have got like 1 lakh staff who's usually placed everywhere in every corner. So it is difficult for us to monitor, but we are doing our best to ensure that this is happening. But I'm very hopeful that with the introduction of the scientific mining, which as I said is in this last phase now, and just 2 days back the the Coal Ministry people were in Jayante Hills, and we're very happy that they are also satisfied with all the provisions. We are expecting that we'll be able to slowly and steadily streamline this entire collection and entire process of scientific mining, which, as you correctly said, I expect will lead to, if not thousands, but hundreds of crores in terms of revenue for us. So I'm hoping that the worst is behind us in terms of all the challenges, complications we face, the challenges the people face, the lakhs and lakhs of people employed by the mining industry out here, local miners being involved. It is a massive challenge. But I hope that, as I said, with the future, we'll be able to see things improving in that aspect also. 18, the FY18 was 1,450 crores. Look at the columns, the graph, the bar chart. It was 1,450 crores in 2018. Today, into financial year 2024, we are 3,217. If this is not actual conversion in terms of tax collection, then what is, I don't know. These are the actual numbers going from 1,450 crores today to 3,217 crores in a matter of 6 years. We have doubled our tax collection of our own revenue receipts.
I don't know whether it is actual figure.
This is actual figure. This is actual. These are AG figures.
Okay.
23, 24
Yeah.
Then I withdraw my statement.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Let me just consultation is to clarify these issues. But let's go to the
Sir, I am not yet completed.
yeah. Look at the green section in the chart. When we took over in 2018, the revenue of excise was 199. Can you see the column that says 1450? In that 1450, the green part is the excise revenue. It was 199, if you can see in the bar. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah. So that 199 has touched 458 in matter of 6 years, triple almost. Well, at least double, 2.5 times. The increase of excise has gone up from 1,199 crores today to 458 crores. And I just had a revenue meeting. We are expected to cross 520 crores this year itself. So if this is not again increase of revenue, then what else is?
Yes, sir.
And so we are plugging all the loopholes. We have been able to, and you can see the jump that took place from 276 to 375 that took place in 2020 to 2021. So you're seeing a constant growth in the increase of the excise revenue. And today, as I said, from 199 in 2018, it's 458 last year. I expect this year to cross 500 crores. So that is how the excise revenue, our own tax has gone up.
But so my experience shows there is a black market.
No, it's not a question of me admitting, not admitting. The process of plugging the loopholes is a continuous process. Now, if you find some shop somewhere that's selling, and then you say that becomes the normal process, I think that would be over assessing the situation.
Okay, sir.
I think the numbers here prove that from 199 to go to 500 crores in a matter of 6 years reflects the commitment of this government to plug the loopholes that are there, and results and numbers are showing that our efforts are yielding results, where almost our excise revenue has tripled, almost close to tripled in the last 6 years.
So to
Is there room for improvement? Absolutely
Yes. So
Numbers are showing that we are going from 199 crores today to 458 crores in excise to cross 500 crores this year is reflection of the kind of policies and commitment that this government is showing.
So there exists some improvement. Needs some
No doubt. So you please tell us what.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, like how to do it.
Why can't we have
That option, we'll explain. We will explore that option. No doubt, we'll explore that option. But I'll tell you very frankly, the main player for ensuring that we are able to minimize the leakages is actually technology. So we have to implement the technology in a correct manner to monitor every movement that comes in and every time the sale takes place. If that monitoring can be done at a very, very precise rate, which is what we've been doing. You see, we have removed the layers of collection. We have centralized the collection process so that there is not many layers of collection taking place. That's what actually led to it. I don't want to go into details. We have too many discussions to take place. But whether the state government runs it, whether the bonds run it, or whoever runs it, the chance of leakage can always be there if we don't have proper monitoring and proper technology to implement and monitor every single movement that's taking place. So we will definitely explore the option that you gave. We will see which is going to be better, and and we'll see this. But suggestion is good. Definitely. One of the most important sections. Can we go to the slide where it shows the departmental expenditures? Yeah. Okay, yeah. See, the expenditure has gone up from 1,085 crores today to 2,338 crores. So we've seen almost a 14% jump in education, and for the first time, actually, we are implementing a lot on the actual infrastructural improvement. So, in the last 4 years, all government schools left, maybe about 200 to 300 are left, but almost 2,500 plus schools have received a new building or have been renovated. I didn't show the pictures because I think there's too much of data otherwise. But the infrastructure for LP, UP, secondary, higher secondary, colleges, all government school infrastructures have got a huge push, and huge investment is being made by the government to ensure that proper infrastructure is there and upgradation is there. Number two, we have gone for a large number of People's College. We have almost 23 People's College today. Again, this is targeted towards strengthening the higher education in our state. We have come out with our own state university, and we now, earlier which was meant to be only a technical university, it is now a full-fledged university because of the CUET issue, which now allows the colleges to affiliate to the state university so that they can bypass the CUET exams and not have to give the CUET exams. So a university, but it's another opportunity for us to now increase the overall presence in those areas. The engineering colleges, the architectural college, the commerce college, science college, the model colleges, all for which the infrastructures were complete. For all of them, the manpower has been sanctioned. So we will be having almost close to 8 to 9 new government colleges in different disciplines being activated this year itself in terms of the higher technical education. A very positive and good news for everybody is that the Shillong Medical College will be operational from this year. So in this academic year, I think in September or August or September, October 2025, the Shillong Medical College will start, and this will be a great milestone for us. We are working towards also activating the Tura Medical College, but we have more challenges there because of manpower mostly, because doctors are and professors and assistant professors, associate professors are not available in Tura, so we have to work out on how to make that possible. So all these areas are being looked at. We are pushing for private investment in higher technical education. Hopefully in about a month's time, 2 months' time, we may have more good news for some more private high quality universities also coming up. So these are the kind of steps that are being taken, and from the budget point of view, everything is required to make whatever I've just told you a possibility. For example, as I said, there are 8 to 9 colleges like Shillong Engineering College, the Moplang Commerce Science College, the Mahendraganj Commerce Science College, the model colleges in Patarkama, model college in Rongjeng, so on and so forth. All these require manpower, and therefore we have sanctioned all of this. We will run to crores once we sanction this manpower and we recruit people. So all of this is investment, and the increase and the budget will make provisions for all of these things to happen. So So, as I said, higher technical education is absolutely necessary. Can we resolve everything in one go? It's not possible. There's a long process. Education is maybe one of the stickiest and one of the most difficult sectors that we have in the state government, and it requires a lot of effort to untie the knots that have been created in the education department. I'm not blaming anybody, but it's through the years a lot of complications come up, and slowly and steadily, I should say surgically, we'll have to untangle these knots while balancing the overall system and looking at our finances in it. So all of this is a procedure, and hopefully we'll be able to improve. But yes, a lot is being planned, and a lot of budget is being put in for the schools and the higher technical education.
After a very, very long time, calling everyone here. So this presentation that I'd like to share is a very short presentation which gives a sense of what the budget is and what the state government is trying to do. After that, we have the opening remarks and by the Honorable Chief Minister, where Sir will further expand on the various issues. So it's a short presentation to give a sense, and the purpose of the pre-budget consultations, as we all know, is to get inputs from everybody on how the budgeting exercise can become more efficient, so that we can use it as a tool to achieve the objectives of making Meghalaya a developed state, the mission 10 that we have set up. So can you go to the first slide, please? So in the very first slide which we wanted to show is on the GSDP trajectory. If we look at the gross state domestic product, so Meghalaya's growth trend, which I think we have been harping in every meeting, this is the slide which we have shown in the previous presentation also. This is the slide which we have shown to the Finance Commission also, and the chairperson of the Finance Commission also appreciated the growth rate of Meghalaya. If we look at the growth trajectory over the last during the period 2015 to about 20, so our growth overall, the CAGR, was only about 8.4%. But I think post-COVID, so thanks to the growth of the Indian economy is also growing well, and also more importantly, I think the specific steps that are taken by the state government under the leadership of our Honorable Chief Minister. So the growth rate numbers are very clear. The growth is about 16% if you take the CAGR. So as we move along, based on this very strong growth numbers, that is the reason why we have set out on this ambitious goal that Meghalaya will become a $10 billion economy by 2028. Because the growth numbers are good, and these numbers are all MOSPI numbers, which is the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation of the Government of India. So, and if we look at the table below, we can also see overall, as I said, the country's growth rate is also good post-COVID, but Meghalaya is one of the few states in the country where the growth rate is even higher than the national numbers. So this is the first slide which I want to draw everybody's attention, which is, I think, the entire budgeting exercise, our entire aspirations for the future, everything relies on the growth of the state, and those numbers look very good. Next. So the growth, Meghalaya's growth, as we all know, because growth is a function of public investment, of private investments, private capital, savings. So one of the most important things that is fueling Meghalaya's growth is the government expenditure. So if we just look at the government's, the size of the government's budget and the expenditure numbers over the last, again, we took a longish trend over a 10-year period. So if we look from 14-15, so the size of the expenditure is typically what the size of the budget is. So the expenditure 10 years ago government expenditure was only 7,600 crores. Last year, which is year 23-24, our expenditure was 21,800, which is close to 22,000 crores. So which means it increased 3 times. So in a 10-year period, the government's expenditure increased 3 times. So that is the kind of growth we have seen, and it is this growth. So obviously when government expenditure increases, what happens? Basically better roads, more water supply, more schools, more programs that benefit the citizens. So that is what happens. So therefore, if you look at our the table next to it, there is the expenditure is categorized into revenue and capital. Revenue means revenue expenditure is the expenditure that is made to run the administration of salaries, various kind of ongoing schemes, all that fall under revenue. Capital expenditure is the expenditure we make on new schemes. So if you look at our capital expenditure number, which we have highlighted, the growth rate of capital expenditure in the last 4 years has been 34%. So which means the state is spending more. In the last 10 years, we had a 3-time increase in the expenditure. In that, our focus in the last 5 years has been on capital expenditure, which means newer projects are being taken up. So all these are the ones that are leading to growth. So this is the expenditure scenario. Next is not a dependency, it is a right. It is the state's right. The Finance Commission every 5 years decides that Government of India collects the taxes on behalf of all the states, and the Government of India has to devolve it to the states. So in that sense, the biggest share that we get, almost in our 17,000 crores, about 9,000 crores is share of central taxes. So it should not be seen that we are dependent on Government of India. It is our right. It is the state's right. So, and Finance Commission has decided that as a formula. So I have just 2 more slides. Next slide, please. Mostly our big chunk is coming from the share of central taxes and CSS. Our own taxes is about close to 3,000 crores in an 18,000 crore kitty. Again, we all know our state is small, our population is small. So while GST is growing well, as the sir just explained, the non-tax, which is the mining and others, are not growing so well. But I think efforts are being made wherever possible in excise, in motor vehicles, in all, to increase our own tax base. Next. So now we have shown how this growth has happened and what is the increase in government expenditure. So when we have more money, when the government has more money, what does the government do? Obviously, the government invests it in sectors which are important, which will lead to growth, which will lead to citizen well-being, which will improve things for the people. So if we look at just the year, so in every sector, more than double. If we look at education, the investment has more than doubled. If we look at roads and bridges, about 1.5 times. Health and family welfare is the biggest. In fact, in health, we are the only state in the country which spends about 9% of our GSDP on health. So that's the kind of number we have, and that's mandated. We are the only state which spends this. So health has grown by more than twice. Then if we look at a sector like PHE, so the expenditure has doubled. So then there is a sector like sports and youth affairs. If you look at the last column, more than 3 times the expenditure, about 3 times. So these are the kind of growths we have seen, and that is what is what we see in the field. I'm sure when we travel to villages, better roads, more PHCs, more sports facilities, all this is the result of this. Next. So this is of last year's actuals, which are the top 10 departments for everybody to have an understanding. So which are the departments where the biggest expenditure is being done? Again, as we would have guessed, education is the big department. Of course, this one includes salaries also. That's why education is the big department. Health is a big department because again they have a huge workforce. Then public works is a very big department. They spend about 2,000 crores out of our 21,000 crores of expenditure. Planning, because many of the projects are implemented through planning. Power is a very important sector, about 1,200 crores of expenditure. Police, again 1,200 crores. So these are the critical sectors. Next. So this is again the capital outlay in the top 10 departments. So the previous slide showed what is the total expenditure. This is the capital expenditure, which means the previous slide showed including salaries and all. This is only on projects. So which are the departments where we are investing the maximum? Again, number 1 is PWD, number 2 is power, then it is planning, then it is urban affairs, and the list goes on. So these are the ones where big capital expenditure is being made. Next, 14% compared to 12 and 18%. So which means while our expenditure is going, the revenue part is not the one. It's not the revenue expenditure that is increasing, it is the capital expenditure. And because capital expenditure is increasing, that is what will lead to growth. Next. So this is the revenue receipts. This is again very interesting because this shows where is this money coming from. Because till now I have shown what is the expenditure, how much we are spending. So where does our money come from? If we see our money coming from, I'll request to focus on the table. So if you look at the state's own revenue. So first there is the state's own revenue. In state's own revenue, we have tax revenue and non-tax revenue. So that is growing. Then we have transfers from the center. Transfers from the center is basically the centrally sponsored schemes and various programs. That is growing a lot. So if you see 21% is the growth rate in the transfers from the center. So which means over the last 4 or 5 years, whether it is Jal Jeevan Mission, whether it is Narega, whether it is PMAY, so the state has been able to leverage a lot of these programs, get more money. So that is increasing. And then the next one, which is what is called a share in central taxes. I think share in central taxes is the one that is increasing the most. So 24% growth is there in the share of central taxes. That is the money that is constitutionally mandated that the Government of India divides between the states. So this we can attribute to two reasons. One is the Indian economy is doing well. As the Indian economy is doing well, whatever share the government of Meghalaya gets, that is increasing. And second, I'd like to take a moment here to explain, this share of central taxes is decided by the Finance Commission, which is constituted every 5 years. So the last Finance Commission, it coincided when the last Finance Commission visit happened to the state. It happened in 2019, and that is when our Honorable Chief Minister also, this new government also came at that time. So we were able to make a very strong case to the Finance Commission about the need for additional resources, need for northeastern states, hilly states to have additional money. So the Finance Commission agreed with the case that was made. In fact, our Honorable Chief Minister led the case for all the hill states and the northeastern states. We had a big conference in Uttarakhand. So there, the Finance Commission agreed with our case, and then they agreed to give the northeastern and the hill states a slightly higher amount than before. And that higher amount is actually translating into a large share of central taxes. Because previously our share used to be 0.642%. Now it is 0.767%. So because of that small change, 0.1 percentage increase, so we are able to get a lot of money as share of central taxes from the Government of India's divisible pool of taxes.
For everybody to understand, and why we're showing this slide. Because a lot of people are of the opinion that this growth that we are seeing is being funded by debt and by us taking loans. And that is the misconception that we want to clarify with this particular slide. The loans and the debts, of course, are an important part of the investments that are made and the fund that comes in. But those are capped by Government of India. We can't take more than what Government of India allows every state to take. So there is a limited scope for us to go forward. So this chart shows to you, or at least indicates where the money is coming from. So a jump of 24% in central taxes, and our CSS, the transfer from the centers, which is a centrally sponsored schemes, 21% growth in that, and state's own revenue also has gone up. These are the things that have driven a majority of our growth. So this is a very, very important slide to clear the misconception that our growth is being driven by debt. I also want to draw your attention to the second row out there, third row, which talks about the state's own non-tax revenue. You can see that it's 0% growth there. And the reason is very simple. Non-tax revenue is actually the royalty in the cess that we get from coal and other products. And obviously that is where we have been facing a huge challenge. But we are on the way to change that. And just to share with all of you, just about 2 days back, the Ministry of Coal has gone to the 2 locations of the scientific mining sites, and they have conducted their survey. They are expecting the reports to be put in about a day or two. And as I said, we are in the final stage of the final scientific mining. So we expect that number also to now slowly grow. So in all fronts, things are moving forward. And as I said, I just wanted to add to what Dr. Vijay has mentioned, that our growth and our investment and expenditure is driven by these resources and not just the debt and the loan, which a lot of misconception is there. Of course, debt and loan is part of the process and the money that comes in, but it is not what has led to the growth, because that is limited. There's a limited amount we can take. We can't take beyond that. Talking about the tax base that is increased, again, this is the direct tax that we get. This is income tax and the corporate tax that comes in. This is the collection that is done by the central government and which is then further distributed to the states, to the Finance Commission.
No, sir.
Yes, it is.
The tax base may be consumptions.
That is, no, okay.
Are the productions.
No.
And the income that we are.
That's indirect tax then. The consumption-based taxes are indirect taxes. So let's not confuse the people. Because when you say widen the tax base, it is widening of tax base is normally related to income tax. No, indirect taxes is completely consumption-based GST. Those are products which have already answered. But when we say increase in the tax base, we normally indicate to the income tax. There was a time when the income tax was only 2% of the public used to pay income tax. And then now slowly and steadily with the central government taking measures, that tax base has gone up and more tax collection is taking place, and that is where the revenue and the finance commission devolution is going up, central tax share is going up. So that's a part. So you have to remember there are two parts to tax. The tax base can be increased in both. You're right. It can be increased in income tax, it can be increased in consumption. I've already replied to a consumption tax base increase, which is done by GST Council. Now I'm replying to the income tax base be increased, which is a direct tax, which is done by central government. So those processes are not directly within our, our jurisdiction in one way. The central government will work on both the increase in the tax base, whether it's consumption, whether it's income tax, corporate tax. Both are aspects that are led or dealt by the central government ministry, by the GST Council, and that's the area that is not completely, as I said, in our jurisdiction, our control. But it's a suggestion, and we can take it up.
I am talking about
GST Council decides that. So there's a process. So different products, like that day, there was a meme on the popcorns and the caramel thing. So those products were brought in. So this process of including different kind of products under the GST Council under the GST is taken up at the GST Council level. So while your suggestion is good, I will put it up at the GST Council meeting. But what I'm saying is it's not a decision that we can make here at the state. So it's a generic suggestion given by a professor, not applicable directly to us as a state. But I will definitely put it up at the GST Council meeting.
That we do to run the state, which is salaries, pensions, these are compulsory expenditures that are unavoidable, that are necessary to run the state. So let's say if we build a new building, a new stadium, the operation and maintenance of the stadium is revenue expenditure, but the investment we make to construct is capital expenditure. So this revenue expenditure, again, if we see, it is going up,